right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. We are in the radio business, but that's not really what we're in. We're in the communication business, but that's not really what we're in.
Nope.
We're really in the public relations business. If you think about it, that's truly what we're in. Now, the reason I say it that way is because we also know that some of you are not in the public relations business, but you have public relations duties, and you communicate with us, and you ask us to bring that information that you have out to a larger audience, which is exactly why we're here. But your communications, public relations skills could, I don't want to make a blanket statement, but so many times I'll get something and Robin will point it out. There's no phone number, there's no address, there's no date. It's confusing, So public relations is a skill that you really, really could benefit from if you just took a little time to improve it. Alan Taylor is an award-winning journalist. He's an award-winning PR specialist. That's why we're talking about this. And he's got a book that might help you. It's called The Perfect Pair, Public Relations and Event Promotions. So everybody out there is involved in something or else, whether it's a parade or a 4th of July celebration or a fundraiser. We have an Oktoberfest I know that we just got information for. I know it's hard to believe it's July, but we do have that.
Yeah.
And so many things. And I'm just telling you, when you have a thing and nobody shows up, or not as many as you would hope for, it's probably because the public relations efforts weren't as good as they could have been. So let's fix that problem. Alan has got a book that helps us all. Good morning, Alan. Thank you for doing this. This is more important than most people realize. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, and I appreciate the time. But let me start by telling you a story that you probably don't even know about. It has to do with your hometown, Ocala. And in fact, it's in my book. There's a gentleman that, unfortunately, he passed away that lived in Ocala by the name of Arthur Jones. I don't know if you know the name.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
Sure,
we know,
sure.
sure. He's wonderful. He was.
His former wife listens to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, after he created Nautilus, and then he created another company called Medex, and we went down to see him, and that was quite an experience going out to his ranch or his estate, where he had the alligator farms.
Right,
he had
right.
He had the gorilla.
Yes.
And he was a very unique gentleman. And after we started working with him, we visited again up in Philadelphia in a hotel suite where he was having a meeting, and he invited some other people to the meeting, and who walks in but Bo Derek and John Derek.
Oh, wow.
So, and as he's making the introductions, I'm impressed. I'm sitting there with Bo Derek, and all of a sudden I say to her, "Yes, we've met before," which happened to be in Las Vegas during a boxing match. And she turned around with her beautiful little face and eyes and looked right into me and said, "I thought you looked familiar." Well, I didn't believe that for a minute, but I sure felt good afterwards.
Okay. So, I mean, are you recommending we do that? I mean, if somebody, because this happens to me all the time, that people will know us either because they see us through the window. We broadcast by the mall, by the way, so people see us all day long. Either that, or they've been a guest on the show and maybe I forgot them. That's happened too. So should I just pretend? Should I fake it?
But yes, you should. But your opening statement, Larry, about the importance of PR, and it's changed over the years, and and sports, just putting a name on an event used to be the only way a client did it. But you have to really build, and even in politics, you just can't put out press releases. You have to be able to engage your constituent. You have to be able to set something up that involves the customer. I give you an example. We were introducing a pet food. How do you introduce a pet food? A press release? So the product was Beneful, which was a healthier product for dogs.
Yeah.
So we created, a doggy spa, in which we traveled the spa around the country. Now, at the spa, we had different things, massages or whatever, and sampling of the product, coupons for the product. but that became a media event. What television station, newspaper, radio would not want to be involved in reporting on this funny, unique event, even though it was commercially sponsored? So that's what PR really does. Sending out a press release is standard operating procedure, but it's not going to get you anything unless you have something revolutionary.
Do you know, I think what you just did, you gave us an example that we could visualize, and that probably got all of our brains ticking, wondering how can I do something similar? So is that what the book is full of, that kind of thing?
Yeah, the book has a lot of examples about all the commercial clients we represented. It also has a lot of stories about my sports writing background. But another example on how to involve the customer. Gillette sponsored a $1 million three-point challenge many years ago. It was a sweepstakes. It couldn't be any more commercial. They ran ads. You clip it out. You enter a contest. If your name is pulled, you get the opportunity to shoot a three-point challenge. Where? At the Final Four. What could be a bigger stage?
Wow.
But we took the sweepstakes winner and made him a media hero. We hired a coach. We did video. We took him on media tours. And by the time we got to the Final Four, the media were looking for him. And by the way, it was sponsored by Gillette.
Oh, that is funny.
So, there's a lot of things like that. The politicians, for example, they send out tons of advertising, tons of mail, but now they also involve their constituents by having what? Town hall meetings. That's a form of PR.
Right, sure.
That's a form of the Ocala councilman going into his constituency,
right,
and touching them.
Right.
Well, that concept is all through the book.
And you yourself, sir, are more than sports. You've run the gamut of most every product that's out there. You've done cigarettes, and you're just amazing.
Yeah, I started out, Robin, as a sports writer, and that was my first passion. And in the book, I say, well, I couldn't play sports. I was too short for basketball. I didn't have hand-eye coordination for baseball, and I got my butt kicked in football. So I decided to write about it. That was a lot safer. And then over the years, there wasn't much money in journalism in those days. I gravitated to PR. And then when I moved from California to New York, in between of which I handled the Ali Clay Liston fight in Miami Beach, I eventually gravitated back to New York. And through the tobacco industry, I got into sports because they began sponsoring sporting events.
Oh, wow.
Auto racing, ladies golf tournaments, men's golf tournaments. And I found out when I traveled on the ladies golf circuit for 2 summers, it's not who won the tournament. I couldn't give a hoot who won the tournament. It was the human interest stories, not on the sports pages.
That is.
On the women's pages, because the product was a female cigarette called Eve cigarettes. And the sports writers couldn't care less about it, but so you have to involve the customer.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something I do here, and I've actually had like radio professionals in quotes, like local professionals tell me or ask me why do you do that? And what I do is, let's say we have somebody scheduled for 25 minutes, and they want to come in to talk to us about their car repair shop. This is a great example because I actually do this every week. And so I often won't even touch the car subject. Well, it'll come up a little bit, but I'll ask about the children. I'll ask about the vacation. I'll ask about, I saw on Facebook that your son got engaged or whatever. And then it really is more interesting to people. And then the real reason for being here still exists. It still does what it's supposed to do, which is to get people to call in to ask about their car. Well, not carburetors anymore, but about their cars.
That's all what I call in the book experiential marketing. You create an experience for which your listener or customer wants to hear about. It's not just how many nuts and bolts there are.
Thank
you. And it's an experience.
Yeah.
And once the marketing person recognizes that experience, the rest of it becomes easy. It falls into place.
And I think one of the best PR entities in the whole world is the royal family of England, because they're out there, they're everywhere, they're doing stuff, they're attending events, they're meeting people, and you know their names, you're intrigued by them, but you have like the royal family of Spain or the royal family of Norway. Occasionally you hear their names in a political sense, but none of the other royal families are out there, like the Queen of England and her people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a beautiful example. I mean, it's people are fascinated by people. People are fascinated by activities, not just a static
Right,
press
that's right.
release.
Yeah, that's right. Do you know the genius of the kids who are asking the girls out to the prom? You know, you see these videos all the time. Those kids have marketing skills that they might not even realize they have.
Yeah.
You know, they got PR skills, because some of that stuff gets viewed 1,000,000 times, and you go, "Oh my gosh!" You know, the kid wrote something in the snow, and look how many people are watching him. You know, so I don't know.
I mean,
they're taking it anywhere.
That reminds me of a case where somebody was looking for a job once, and instead of sending me the resume, he sent me the resume wrapped around a baseball bat. And the baseball bat represented that he could hit a grand slam home run for me.
Wow.
That's awesome.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that caught my attention. I didn't hire the person. That got me to look at it. I mean, and bear in mind, this is all before digital media. This is all before the internet. And it's a lot different today.
So let me ask you about that one thing you said. You didn't hire him, because I'm guessing that guy thought, well, I guess that didn't work. But in a way, it did work. I know a guy who is an illustrator, and he's successful at it. But before he was successful, he was sending out postcards of his artwork, and wasn't getting anywhere. And so he was up in New York one time. He's from Oregon, I think, but he was in New York. And he said, you know what, I'm just going to make a call. I'll see if I can get into somebody. And the guy said, sure, come on in. And so he went in, and you know what he saw? On the cork board in the office, again, this was before the whole advent of Facebook and all that, he saw one of his postcards hanging on the wall. So it did get there, but he didn't get the job. You know, it was one of those, it's like fishing and getting a nibble, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a changed world, Larry, today with this internet stuff and Facebook. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, and you know, because you have the podcast, you're on live. You can virtually post anything you want on Facebook and get away with it.
You do something wonderful also with your caring for people. You just don't put the products in front of the consumer, but you make relationships with the people you're working with. I mean, the bathtub story about you and Eva Gabor was really cool. I love that one.
Yeah, I mean, I can still hear her screaming at me. No bathtub, no bathtub. I mean, but you know, we do live, whether it's internet or the old days, my days. You still build relationships, and it still comes down to people and knowing how to tap into their unique personality and turn that into a positive media event. You know, it's still there. I mean, you have more opportunities, and you know, when I first after I retired, I was doing work for Jack Nicklaus's equipment company, and the challenge was to get the golf writers to come to their booth at the PGA show in Orlando, and the equipment company was very small, so it couldn't compete with Nike or Callaway or any of them. How do I get the golf media to come to Jack Nicklaus's equipment company when Jack Nicklaus himself was not going to be at the show?
Oh my.
Gosh, yeah.
So I had the email list of all the golf writers attending the show, and the first line of my email said, "Would you like to interview Jack Nicklaus?" ? And who wouldn't, right?
Right.
But there's a bunch of blank space.
Oh no.
And when you scroll down, the next line read, "Gotcha." Well, you know, I caught them with a humorous thing. And of course, everybody showed up knowing that Jack wasn't going to be there. I delivered the next, I said, I'm going to deliver the next best thing for you. the man who designs the clubs.
Well, you
But I did it, even though I fudged, it was in good taste, good nature, and they took the bait because, okay, I did something funny.
and that's a fine line, though. When you do that, we have in our community, we have a former Miami Dolphins Super Bowl player, Don Nottingham. Is
Yes.
his name. And so he has loaned his celebrity, if you want to put it that way, to a local organization that helps special needs children. It's similar to Special Olympics.
Yeah, this is Champions
They
for
call it
Champions.
Champions for Champions. And not only does he bring to the plate his own celebrity, but he's got friends from the NFL. So every once in a while, they'll have these dinners where the whole catchphrase is "Come and meet some of the legendary NFL players." And it works. So I think name dropping may help. In your case, you had I guess that was a fine line, really, to kind of make it seem like he'd be there. I wonder if you were worried that they would actually show up.
The way I handled it, Larry, I felt it was in good taste and humorous.
Yeah.
I didn't I didn't say to them, "Come and interview."
Right.
I said, and then when I qualified the question or the proposition, would you like? Of course they would like. But the next statement said, "I'm sorry, I can't deliver that, but I can deliver the next best thing."
Can I ask you a question? How do you test something? Let's say we're trying to come up with a public relations campaign, and we're tossing around ideas, and somebody comes up with something, and the rest of us say, that sounds pretty good, but it's going to cost, a lot of money to do this. How do we know that it will work?
Unfortunately, unlike advertising where you can measure cost per thousand, PR is not quite that scientific. You have to go with your gut. You have to be able to say, I'm creating this experience in which your product will be favorably positioned. And then you got to make sure there's no screw-ups at the event or activity. And you got to make sure that you don't bring to the table people that like to write about negative stories. I mean, you got to be careful who you invite to these events. But when you're creating like the doggy spot, that's going to be a fun thing.
That's a cool one.
Yeah.
I love that one.
I mean, look at another product that's in the book called Yukon Jack, which is a whiskey. Mm-hmm. No budget. Never advertised much. What does Yukon stand for? The Northwest, the strength.
Right.
So we created arm wrestling tournaments. Okay, arm wrestling strong.
Right.
Where do we put the tournaments on? In bars.
Of course. Nice.
But you tie a local charity in, so every entry went to a local charity. So you have a local media hook. You have the product on display. You have all these big guys and sometimes some women come to these events. What better television is there than that?
Mm-hmm.
That's really good thinking. I think that's what the book is going to help even myself with. And I'd like to think that Robert and I have somewhat went around the block a few times with this, but there's always something you can learn from somebody else. One of the things I was curious about, just to hear your thoughts on, is when we're going to recruit a celebrity to help us promote something. It seems to me that it cannot be a political celebrity. You can't really invite Hillary anymore because it's so polarizing. Or Trump. I'm not just picking on her.
Exactly.
You really can't because it's polarizing the whole party thing in the country right now. I don't know that it used to be, but it is now.
Well, it's a whole different world now. I mean, I wouldn't touch a political celebrity or a political person for anything right now because of the situation that we're in. It is polarizing, and it's, and even in the athlete world or even the Hollywood world, the celebrities today, I have LeBron James, for example, he'll endorse a product that he might believe in, but getting him to do something beyond the endorsement, having him come to the doggy spot, for example, if he endorsed Beneful, and got paid his X number of millions of dollars.
Right.
He's not going to show up for a doggy spot. He'll do the commercial. He'll do a one-day shoot for $50 million. I'm just making a number up. So you have to be careful with the athletes or the celebrities, the politicians. It's not what it used to be.
And you illustrate in your book with Muhammad Ali. I mean, gosh, you gave us insight to him as a person more than what we have.
Yeah, Ali, and I still refer to him as Cassius. We literally grew up together. My time with him in Los Angeles, and then doing the fight. He was a very, very special person, and what he said he believed in. And when he got into the Muslim religion, it wasn't a show. It was his belief, and he was strong. And I stood in his house the day after the championship fight. I was with Chris Dundee, the promoter, who had a fistful of telegrams from around the world offering dollars for promotions and appearances. And I said, Cassius, if you could only keep the mouth quiet. And he said, yeah, man. And 2 minutes later, Will Grimsley from the Associated Press walked in, and Clay said, I am now Muhammad Ali. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. He believed in that, except at that time of our lives, with Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad and all of those people, it wasn't very highly received. And today, if he was Muhammad Ali fighting today, nobody would criticize that, and he would make the millions in endorsements. But at that time,
I hear that.
In '64, it was radical. But he believed in that.
I want to go back real quickly to the human thing that we all are attracted to, sometimes more than the subject. We had yesterday a guest who, at 17, got hired to work at one of the satellite offices, I guess, of the White House. Long story short, he was basically serving water at a dinner, and Frank Sinatra was one of the guests. And he accidentally spilled ice water onto Frank Sinatra's socks while he was wearing them. And to me, that was more interesting than all the other stuff about the presidents that we were talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You have a Sinatra story, don't you?
Yeah, Bob Arum, the fight promoter, was planning a fight in Bafutoswana, South Africa, between Boom Boom Manzini, and I forget who the opponent was, and it was being built around a Frank Sinatra concert. And here I am, I'm excited, I'm in South Africa, I'm going to take my family, take my kids, a safari. But when Sinatra was doing a concert at the Brendan Byrne Arena in New Jersey, he granted us, and I stress that word, granted, allowed us to do certain media interviews, and he alone would pick who he would allow to interview him. So he picked Oscar Fraley for United Press International, who also wrote The Untouchables. He picked Bill Gallo, who was a boxing cartoonist writer for the New York News. He was very, very choosy on who he allowed to interview him. And he was very easy to work with once you met his condition. Unfortunately, Boom Boom Mancini broke a shoulder, and the fight was canceled. And my dreams of being on a safari went down the tubes. But he was very easy to work with. But he was very, very particular who he would allow to interview him. Wow. I had no choice.
That's
it was
a cool story.
Three or four people. I said, fine, I'll take it.
That is cool. I have a copy of the book. It's called A Perfect Pair. It's written by our guest, Alan Taylor. It will give you some entertainment, but it'll also kind of give you some inspiration as far as what maybe you could do to attract attention to your event, or just whatever it is you're doing. Public relations is important. So if you want the book, call me right now, 622-9622. I have one to give away. I did find it on Amazon. It looks like it's doing really well. Do you want to direct us to a different website?
No, just leave it at Amazon for now. I appreciate that.
Okay, go to Amazon and look for A Perfect Pair, Public Relations and Event Promotions by Alan Taylor, AlanTaylor. Alan, thank you so much. That was a very fun interview. And
I enjoy it. Enjoy Ocala. It's continuing to grow. It's supposed to be a great place now.
It is. It's wonderful. Where are you? Where are you right now? I'm
in God's country. I'm down in Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh, okay. Thank you for being on the air with us today.
And my grandson is up at the U of F.
Oh, go Gators.
There you go.
Go Gators.
There you go. Awesome. Hey, thank you,
right.
Thank you, Alan. All right,
All right, thanks a lot.
We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu. President Trump dismissing an interview with The Sun in which he said